This example is from page 58 of your textbook, example 25, rewriting a formula for making solutions. A stock solution is a concentrated solution that will be diluted to a lower concentration for actual use. Stock solutions are used to save preparation time, conserve materials, reduce prep time, reduce storage space, and improve the accuracy in which working solutions are prepared. When we're working with stock solutions to make a new solution, we use the formula V1 times C1 is equal to V2 times C2. And V1C1 is the volume and concentration of the stock solution, and V2C2 is the volume and concentration of the new solution being made. When you're working with this solution, it's important that you remember what the different variables are for. So again, if you can remember that the V1C1 is for the stock solution and the V2C2 is for the new solution. If you can keep those separate, you're in the right direction. So let's see how we can use this formula to solve problems. In your book, the example they give is how much 12% stock solution is needed to make 50 milliliters of a new 8% solution. Whenever I'm using this formula, I always write down my variables first so that I make sure that I keep them straight and I don't confuse them. Oh, and I've already made a mistake. Oh, so this should be C1. So that's for my stock solution, and then my new solution is V2C2. And in the problem, I look at my data and they say that I have a 12% stock solution. Now the next thing you have to remember is that when you're doing percentages, to write it down in decimal form, so 12% becomes 0.12. And 50 milliliters is the volume of the new solution, and 8% is the concentration of the new solution, and that's written as 0.08. And we're looking for the volume of the stock solution. So I'm just going to plug these numbers into my formula. There. So V1 is our unknown times C1, which is 12%, is equal to the volume of my new solution, 50 milliliters, times the concentration of my new solution, which is 8%. Now what I want to do is solve for V1, and to do that I want to move the 0.12 concentration to the other side. I'm multiplying by 0.12, so to get rid of it I'm going to do the opposite of multiplication, which is dividing, which cancels out that, and whatever I do to that side I also have to do to the other side. So the volume will then be equal to 50 milliliters times a concentration of 8%, which is 0.08, divided by the concentration of 12%, which is 0.12. And when I plug all those numbers into my calculator, I get 33.3 milliliters. And that's the volume of the original stock solution. Okay, let's look at another example. Number 39 says how much of a 25% stock solution would be needed to produce 250 mils of 10% solution. So again, as always, I'm going to write down my variables first. V1, C1, V2, C2. And then from my problem, I'll get my data. So 25% is the concentration of my stock, so that will be 0.25. Needed to produce 250 milliliters, that's my new solution, at 10% concentration, which is 0.10. And now I'm going to put that into the formula and fill in my variables. V1 is my unknown, times 0.25 is equal to 250 milliliters times 0.10. I need to get V1 by itself, so I'm going to divide by 0.25. That cancels those out. And whatever I do to one side in algebra, I need to do to the other side. So the volume of the stock solution will be equal to 250 times 0.10 divided by 0.25. And that gives me an answer of 100 milliliters. So I'll need 100 milliliters of the stock solution to create my new solution. Question number 4. How much of a 10% stock solution would be needed to produce 150 mils of 7.5% solution? So again, I'm going to write down my variables. And C2. So my stock solution is at 10%, so that's 0.01. They give me 150 milliliters for my new solution, and my new concentration is 7.5%, and that's written as 0.075. The sticking point for a lot of these questions is how you convert your percentages. So make sure you remember that when you're converting percentages to decimals, that you move your decimal 2 places over, and that will give you the correct decimal. Okay? So I'm going to plug these into my formula. My volume again is my unknown. .075 for a 7.5% solution. I'm going to divide by 0.1 over here, divide by 0.1 over here, and that gives me 112.5 milliliters of stock solution to create 150 milliliters of 7.5% concentration. Okay, moving on. Here we have 41. How much 25% alcohol is needed to make 500 milliliters of 15% alcohol? So you can see that I use the same approach every time. I write down my variables, and then I look to my question to fill in my data. So 25% alcohol is the concentration of my stock solution. So C1 is 0.25. I'm making 500 milliliters of my new solution, so that's the V2, and my new solution is going to be 15% alcohol, so that's my concentration for C2. And I'm looking for V1, so using my formula, I will put in my data. V1 is my unknown, concentration is 2.5, ran out of room, and V2 is 500 milliliters times 0.2, which is 0.15. I need to divide by 0.25 to get rid of to get V1 by itself, which means I have to divide by 0.25. And so my new volume is equal to 300 milliliters. So 300 milliliters of stock solution is what is needed to make my new solution. 42. How much 9% solution is needed to make 50 milliliters of 2%? So I'm just going to go through this one quickly because it's basically the same question over and over again. Oh, that's my unknown. So I have 0.09 concentration. My new volume is 50 milliliters, and my new concentration is 2%, and again I'm going to make sure that I write that in correctly. And I'm going to put all those numbers into my new formula. And get rid of 0.09 on this side by dividing, and divide this side by 0.09, and that gives me my volume of my stock solution is going to be 11, whoops, 0.11 milliliters. Okay. And the last two ones. So 43 and 44 are a little bit different because this time they give you what the volume and the concentration is for the stock solution, but this time, oh, it's same actually. You're still looking for the percentage of stock solution. So, okay, just a sec, Sammy. That's my daughter in the background. We're looking at, yeah, so we have a volume of our stock solution is 25 milliliters. But this time we're looking at the percentage of stock solution. So this time our unknown is the C1. Oh, I meant C1 here. But we're given that we have 75 milliliters of our new solution, and the concentration of our new solution is 0.20. So the only thing we have to be careful of here is when we are putting our data into the formula. So V1 this time we know is 25 milliliters. Our unknown this time is C1. V2 is 75 milliliters for the new solution, and the concentration of the new solution is 20%. This time we want to keep C1 on this side, but get rid of the volume of 25 milliliters. So we're going to divide by 25 on this side, which means we divide by 25 on this side, and our concentration, whoops, becomes 60%, 0.6. But of course, that's the decimal form, so we have to change that into a percentage. So it's 60%. This last step can mess you up, so make sure that you remember that you always have to convert your decimal into a percentage when you're looking at concentrations. And our last question, number 44, you can make 90 milliliters of 0.5% solution from 3 milliliters of what percentage stock solution? So writing that down, I'm going to look at my stock solution first, and they say I have 3 milliliters of that, and I don't know the percentage, so C1 is my variable. You can make 90 milliliters of your new solution, and the new solution is 0.5%. Again, have to be careful in how you write this 0.5%. 0.05. And now, oh, actually it's 0.5, so it should be 0.005. Ah, I almost messed up there too. So 0.5% to make it into a decimal becomes 0.005, and how I know that is that I always move my decimal to the left too. Okay, now let's put that into the formula. And I get 3 milliliters times my unknown is equal to 90 milliliters times 0.005. I need to get rid of the 3 on that side, do the same on that side, and that gives me C1 is equal to 90 times 0.005 divided by 3, which gives me a decimal of 0.15, which becomes 15% concentration for the stock solution. And that's number 44. I hope this helps to clarify how to use this formula and to rearrange. Again, the biggest thing is to remember your algebra rules for rearranging formulas, and also remember that when you're changing the or using the percent, you have to change it to a decimal. That's great. I hope that this is helpful, and thanks for your question. Bye for now.